The observation deck of the Concordance research vessel hummed with a mixture of anticipation and bureaucratic routine. Dr. Elena Coro adjusted the spectral analyzers, her three-fingered hands moving with practiced precision across the holographic interface. Another routine survey of a developing civilization, or so everyone believed. The system they were investigating appeared mundane at first glance. A single yellow star, 8 planets, with the third planet showing signs of complex biological activity. Preliminary long-range scans had categorized this as yet another emerging species, trapped on their home world, struggling with basic technological challenges. Incoming data stream, announced the ship's cognitive interface, its melodic tone devoid of any hint of the extraordinary about to unfold. Elena leaned forward, her iridescent neural implants filtering and processing the incoming information. The planet's inhabitants called themselves humans, a species barely a few thousand years removed from their most primitive technological stages. Their communication networks were a chaotic mesh of conflicting information, technological bursts of creativity interspersed with seemingly senseless conflicts. The initial report wrote itself in her mind, transmitted directly to the Concordance Central Archives. Species classification: emerging technological civilization. Threat level: minimal. Developmental stage: pre-unified planetary governance. Notable characteristics: highly fragmented social structures. Technological capacity: limited interplanetary exploration. Projected timeline to significant galactic interaction: estimated 200 to 300 standard cycles. Yet something tugged at the edges of Elena's scientific intuition. Between the lines of data, beneath the surface-level observations, there was something different. The humans were an anomaly. Their technological progression defied standard developmental models. In mere decades, they had moved from basic mechanical transportation to complex computational systems. Their scientific breakthroughs came in unpredictable bursts, solving problems that would take most species centuries to conceptualize. One data stream caught her attention. A medical research team had just developed a genetic modification technique that could potentially reverse cellular degradation. Another transmission showed a group of engineers designing a propulsion system that challenged fundamental understanding of quantum mechanics, and yet another displayed a global communication network that processed more information in a single moment than most civilizations managed in entire generations. Cognitive interface, Elena called out, run a comparative analysis of human technological progression against standard species development models. The ship's interface went silent for precisely 2.7 standard seconds, an eternity for a quantum-based intelligence system. Anomaly detected, the interface finally responded. Human technological and adaptive capabilities demonstrate a 327% deviation from projected developmental curves. Recommendation: detailed investigative protocol initiated. Elena's neural implants tingled. Something about these humans was fundamentally different. They were not just another species waiting to be cataloged and forgotten. They were something else entirely. The observation team had expected to find a primitive civilization struggling to understand its place in the universe. Instead, they discovered a species on the verge of something extraordinary, a civilization that seemed to be writing its own rules of cosmic development. Their social structures were complex, frequently in conflict, yet remarkably adaptive. They could transition from destructive confrontations to collaborative problem-solving with a speed that defied traditional sociological models. Their technological innovations emerged from the most unexpected sources: individual researchers, small collaborative groups, even lone inventors working in modest laboratory conditions. As the initial survey concluded, Elena knew her preliminary report would raise eyebrows throughout the Concordance research community. These humans were not just another developing species. They were an anomaly, a potential wildcard in the carefully mapped galactic ecosystem. Little did she know how profound that observation would prove to be. The first chapter of humanity's cosmic story was about to be written, and no one was prepared for what would come next. The deep space exploration vessel Horizon drifted quietly through the asteroid belt of the Kepler 452 system. Captain Miranda Rodriguez reviewed the mission logs, her fingers tracing the holographic displays that flickered with incoming data streams. Nothing could have prepared her for what was about to happen. Commander David Chin, the ship's strategic operations officer, interrupted her review. "Captain, we're detecting an unidentified vessel on long-range scanners. Configuration doesn't match any known exploration or military design in our database." The Horizon was a research vessel, designed for scientific exploration rather than combat. Its crew represented a diverse mix of scientists, engineers, and explorers, each selected not just for their technical expertise, but for their ability to think creatively under pressure. As the unknown vessel approached, the communication systems crackled to life. The alien ship's design was sleek, almost organic, with technology that seemed to pulse with an internal energy far beyond human current understanding. Standard communication protocols failed. No translation matrix could decode the initial transmissions. "Attempt standard communication protocols," Miranda ordered. "Use the universal mathematical sequences we've developed for first contact scenarios." The bridge fell silent. Each crew member understood the potential significance of this moment. First contact was no longer a theoretical concept. It was happening in real time. The alien vessel made its first move. An energy pulse swept across the Horizon's sensor arrays, a scanning technique that would have disabled most human technological systems. But the ship's designers had anticipated multiple potential threat scenarios. Redundant systems kicked in, shielding critical infrastructure. David's fingers flew across the tactical interface. Adaptive shielding is holding. They're attempting to probe our systems, but our firewalls are redirecting their scan. What happened next would become a legendary moment in human exploration history. Instead of a traditional defensive or offensive response, the Horizon's crew began to adapt. They didn't just protect their systems, they started to analyze the alien scanning technique. Within minutes, they were not just blocking the scan but beginning to understand its underlying technological principles. "We're receiving something," the ship's communication specialist called out. "It's not exactly a message, more like a complex data stream." Miranda approached the communication station. The incoming data was unlike anything they'd encountered. It wasn't just information. It was a multi-layered communication that seemed to exist simultaneously on multiple conceptual levels. The alien vessel seemed to pause. Its energy signatures suggested confusion. If such a human emotion could be attributed to an extraterrestrial technological system. David's analysis came quickly. "They're trying to understand how we're responding. Our adaptive systems are doing something they didn't anticipate." The Horizon wasn't just defending itself. It was learning, adapting, transforming the potential threat into a source of scientific understanding. Where most species might have responded with aggression or pure defense, the human crew saw an opportunity for exploration and knowledge. 12 hours into the encounter, the alien vessel began to withdraw. The data streams suggested something close to scientific curiosity, perhaps even a form of respect. "They're mapping our response," Miranda observed, "not as a potential threat, but as an unknown variable worth studying." When the encounter concluded, the Horizon had not fired a single weapon. It had not launched any aggressive maneuver. Instead, it had demonstrated something far more powerful, an ability to transform a potential conflict into a moment of unprecedented scientific discovery. Back on Earth, the mission logs would be studied intensely. This was more than a first contact scenario. It was a demonstration of human potential, the ability to turn the unknown into an opportunity for growth and understanding. The crew of the Horizon had done something extraordinary. They had represented humanity not through force, but through adaptability, curiosity, and an unquenchable desire to understand. As the ship began its journey back to the solar system, Miranda looked at her crew. They weren't soldiers. They weren't conquerors. They were explorers, representatives of a species that saw the universe not as a battlefield, but as an infinite classroom waiting to be understood. The alien encounter would be reported, but the true story, the real significance of what had transpired, would take generations to fully comprehend. The Concordance Research Facility orbited a distant neutron star, its crystalline structure capturing and redirecting cosmic radiation into pure energy. Dr. Elena Coro stood before a massive holographic display, surrounded by centuries of accumulated xenorteological data. Her current focus, the most perplexing species ever encountered, humans. Thousands of data streams converge, creating a complex tapestry of human history. Unlike most civilizations that followed predictable developmental patterns, humans defied every established model of species progression. The earliest recovered records painted a picture of extraordinary complexity, a species constantly on the brink of self-destruction, yet simultaneously capable of breathtaking innovation. Wars that threatened total annihilation would suddenly transform into periods of unprecedented technological and social advancement. Elena's research team had collected artifacts from various human historical periods. Each piece told a story of remarkable adaptation. A simple communication device from the early 21st century revealed more technological innovation than some galactic civilizations achieved in millennia. Medical records showed a species capable of rapid biological and technological adaptation that bordered on the miraculous. "Computer," she called out, "overlay human technological progression against standard species development models." The holographic display transformed. Brilliant lines of data began to dance. Standard developmental curves represented in cool blue, human progression marked in vibrant orange. The difference was stark and impossible to ignore. Most species followed a linear path of technological development. They would master one technological tier before slowly progressing to the next. Humans did something entirely different. Their progression was more like a series of explosive leaps, each breakthrough coming from the most unexpected sources. One particular data stream caught her attention. During a period of global conflict in the early 20th century, humans had transformed from basic mechanical transportation to creating devices capable of splitting atomic structures. Where most species would require thousands of years to make such a leap, humans accomplished it in mere decades. The medical records were equally fascinating. Humans possessed an extraordinary ability to overcome biological limitations. Genetic research showed a species with an unprecedented capacity for adaptation. They didn't just survive environmental challenges, they systematically found ways to transform those challenges into opportunities for growth. Cultural records revealed another unique characteristic. Human innovation rarely came from centralized sources. Unlike most galactic civilizations with unified research structures, humans generated breakthrough technologies from individual researchers, small collaborative groups, and sometimes even lone inventors working with minimal resources. A recovered historical document from the early Internet age showed how a single individual could spark global technological transformation. Researchers working in small laboratories, often with limited funding, would develop technologies that would reshape entire industrial sectors. The archaeological team had discovered something even more intriguing. Human historical records showed a species that transformed conflict into innovation. Wars that would have destroyed other civilizations became catalysts for technological and social advancement. Each challenge seemed to unlock new levels of collective potential. Elena's neural implants processed the data, highlighting key anomalies. The human species demonstrated a unique ability to learn from failure. Where most civilizations would collapse after significant setbacks, humans would analyze, adapt, and emerge stronger. Their space exploration told a similar story. With limited initial resources, they had managed to send physical beings beyond their planetary system in less than a century of technological development. Most species required thousands of years and massive centralized efforts to achieve similar milestones. The most puzzling aspect was their social structure. Humans operated through complex, often chaotic systems of governance. Yet within that apparent disorder, they maintained a remarkable ability to unite when facing significant challenges. Global scientific collaborations, humanitarian efforts, technological innovations, all emerged from what appeared to be a completely disorganized social system. As the holographic display continued to pulse with data, Alina realized they were looking at something unprecedented. Humans were not just another species to be cataloged and forgotten. They represented a fundamental reimagining of cosmic potential. Something had engineered the species, but the real question remained: to what purpose? The research would continue, and with each discovery, the mystery of humanity would only grow deeper. The genetic research complex floated in the void between star systems, a marvel of quantum engineering and biological investigation. Dr. Alina Koro stood before a holographic representation of human DNA, her three-fingered hands manipulating the intricate molecular structure with delicate movements. What had begun as a routine genetic analysis had transformed into the most profound scientific investigation in Concordance history. The human genome was unlike anything previously encountered, a biological puzzle that defied every established understanding of evolutionary development. "Initiate deep scan molecular analysis," Alina commanded. The holographic display erupted into a complex dance of molecular interactions. Each strand of human DNA seemed to pulse with an almost deliberate complexity. Traditional genetic markers showed modifications that should have been impossible through natural evolutionary processes. Most species develop genetic adaptations over millions of years. Humans appeared to have compressed millennia of potential genetic development into mere thousands of years. Their DNA contained adaptive markers that suggested intentional design. But design by whom? The research team had discovered multiple anomalies. Humans possessed genetic sequences that seemed to activate under specific environmental stress. It was as if their very genetic structure was programmed to transform and adapt when faced with challenging conditions. Medical records revealed extraordinary capabilities. Humans could survive in environments that would destroy most known species. Their immune systems could rapidly develop responses to new pathogens. Their neuroplasticity allowed for unprecedented learning and adaptation. One particular genetic sequence caught Alina's attention. It appeared to be a complex adaptive mechanism that could potentially trigger significant biological modifications in response to environmental challenges. Where most species would require generations to develop such adaptations, humans seemed capable of initiating these changes within a single generation. The quantum genetic analyzer began to break down the molecular structure. Each scan revealed more questions than answers. The genetic code seemed to contain multiple layers of information, some active, some dormant, but all suggesting a level of intentional design that challenged everything known about biological development. Dr. Marcus Way, the team's senior genetic researcher, approached with additional findings. The most intriguing aspect, he explained, is the potential for deliberate genetic modification. Humans not only adapt, they seem capable of consciously directing their own evolutionary path. Their research showed humans developing genetic therapies that could potentially reverse cellular degradation, modify inherited conditions, and enhance biological capabilities. Most species would require centuries to develop such technologies. Humans were doing it within decades. The adaptive mechanisms were particularly fascinating. Humans possessed genetic sequences that could be activated under specific stress conditions. It was as if their very biological structure was designed to transform challenges into opportunities for growth. Alina's neural implants processed the data, highlighting key anomalies. The human genome contained what could only be described as adaptive triggers, genetic sequences that could be activated to enhance survival capabilities. Exposure to extreme conditions, complex problem-solving scenarios, or significant environmental challenges could unlock potential genetic modifications. It's not just adaptation, Marcus noted, reviewing the data. It's intentional evolutionary engineering. The implications were staggering. Someone, or something, had seemingly designed a species with an unprecedented capacity for survival and growth. The genetic code suggested a level of intentional design that went far beyond natural evolutionary processes. Historical genetic records showed how humans had begun to understand and manipulate their own genetic structure. They were not just passive recipients of evolutionary processes, they were becoming active participants in their own biological development. As the research continued, more questions emerged. The genetic complexity suggested a level of design that was almost impossible to comprehend. Each scan revealed layers of potential, dormant genetic sequences that could be activated under specific conditions. Elena understood they were looking at something extraordinary. The human genome was not just a biological blueprint. It was a complex adaptive system, potentially designed to transform challenges into opportunities for growth and development. The final report would challenge everything the Concordance understood about biological development. Humans were not just another species to be studied. They were a living experiment in evolutionary potential, a biological system designed to push the boundaries of what was thought possible. As the holographic display continued to pulse with molecular complexity, one question remained: what was the ultimate purpose of this remarkable genetic design? The first wave of Concordance battleships emerged from quantum-fold space, their sleek metallic forms casting long shadows across the solar system's outer reaches. Admiral Krell studied the holographic tactical display, confident in the overwhelming technological superiority of the invasion force. Earth looked deceptively fragile, the blue-green marble suspended in the vast darkness of space. The Concordance strategic analysis had been clear. A swift, decisive strike would neutralize the human potential before it could fully develop. No species should be allowed to grow into a potential future threat. Initial bombardment sequences began. Advanced quantum disruption weapons designed to shatter planetary defense systems powered up. These were weapons that had reduced dozens of emerging civilizations to cosmic dust. The Concordance had perfected the art of planetary neutralization over millennia. What happened next would be recorded as one of the most remarkable moments in galactic history. Instead of a traditional defensive response, human systems began to adapt in real time. Planetary defense networks that should have been obliterated by the first wave of attacks began to reconfigure. Military and civilian communication systems merged into a complex, adaptive network that seemed to learn and respond faster than any known technological system. Major cities transformed into complex defensive ecosystems. Industrial centers rapidly converted manufacturing lines into weapon production. Agricultural zones became resource generation points. Every human system seemed designed to turn potential destruction into an opportunity for survival and counteraction. The Concordance battleships found themselves facing something entirely unexpected. Where most species would collapse under such an overwhelming assault, humans were actively transforming the conflict into a sophisticated adaptive response. Orbital defense platforms that should have been destroyed within moments began to not just defend, but actively counterattack. Each destroyed system was quickly replaced by backup networks. Communication systems that were hit would immediately reroute, using civilian infrastructure, satellite networks, and even individual communication devices to maintain a comprehensive defense grid. Military strategy shifted at an impossible speed. Ground-based systems began to use the invading ship's own technological signatures against them. Quantum communication networks allowed for near-instantaneous strategic adaptation. What should have been a simple planetary invasion became a complex, multi-layered conflict that defied all standard military projections. Admiral Krell watched in growing disbelief as human responses became increasingly sophisticated. Their technological systems seemed to learn and adapt with each passing moment. Weapon frequencies that worked in the first attack wave became ineffective in subsequent strikes. Most shocking was the human ability to transform limited resources into strategic advantages. Satellite networks became communication and targeting systems. Industrial complexes converted to military production in hours. Every civilian system became a potential defensive resource. The conflict expanded beyond traditional military engagement. Humans were fighting not just with weapons, but with information, technological adaptation, and an unprecedented level of collective problem-solving. Concordance intelligence reports had completely failed to capture the true nature of human potential. This was not just a species defending itself. This was a civilization transforming a potential extinction event into an opportunity for unprecedented growth and development. Orbital strikes that should have devastated entire continents were met with adaptive shield technologies. Major population centers demonstrated an ability to rapidly redistribute resources, maintain critical infrastructure, and continue functioning under conditions that would have destroyed most known civilizations. As the conflict continued, something remarkable became evident. The humans were not just defending, they were learning. Each concordance attack was met with a response that showed increasing technological sophistication. Military strategists had expected a quick, decisive victory. Instead, they found themselves engaged in a conflict that challenged every established understanding of planetary defense and technological adaptation. When the initial invasion wave concluded, the Concordance found itself in an unprecedented situation. They had not just failed to defeat the humans, they had inadvertently provided them with the most comprehensive technological and strategic learning experience in their species' history. Admiral Krell's final report would be brief but profound. The humans are not just a species to be conquered. They are a dynamic, adaptive system that transforms challenges into opportunities for growth. The universe watched, and humanity continued to evolve. The Concordance research vessel drifted silently near the edge of human communication networks. Dr. Elena Coro reviewed the intercepted human communications, her neural interfaces processing vast streams of data that defied conventional understanding. Humans communicated in ways that challenged every established model of interspecies interaction. Their communication was not a linear exchange of information, but a complex, multi-layered system of dialogue that seemed to exist simultaneously on multiple conceptual levels. Most galactic civilizations developed communication systems based on strict logical protocols. Humans did something entirely different. Their conversations were an intricate dance of emotion, logic, creativity, and adaptability. A single communication could contain layers of meaning, literal information, emotional subtext, cultural references, and potential future implications. The research team had collected thousands of communication samples. Each one revealed a species that transformed conflict into an opportunity for understanding. Where most civilizations would escalate tensions, humans seemed capable of finding common ground through unprecedented levels of empathy and creative problem-solving. Diplomatic intercepts were particularly fascinating. Human negotiators approached complex international challenges with a flexibility that bordered on the miraculous. They could simultaneously hold multiple perspectives, understand opposing viewpoints, and generate solutions that transcended traditional conflict resolution models. One intercepted communication between two political leaders demonstrated this extraordinary capability. A potential conflict that would have resulted in warfare for most species became a nuanced dialogue about shared challenges and collaborative solutions. The psychological analysis revealed something even more extraordinary. Humans possessed an almost unique ability to transform negative experiences into opportunities for growth. Where most species would become defensive or aggressive when faced with challenges, humans seemed to view difficulties as puzzles to be solved collaboratively. Their social media networks provided additional insights. These were not just communication platforms, but complex adaptive systems that could rapidly distribute information, generate collective responses, and transform social understanding in real time. Most shocking was the human capacity for empathy. Their communication systems could rapidly mobilize global support for humanitarian efforts, scientific collaborations, and collective problem-solving. A crisis in one part of the world could generate immediate, sophisticated responses from diverse global communities. The research team discovered that human creativity was not a linear process. Their problem-solving approached challenges from multiple angles simultaneously. Where most species would follow established protocols, humans would generate multiple potential solutions, often combining seemingly unrelated concepts to create innovative approaches. Psychological profiles showed an extraordinary range of individual capabilities. Each human seemed to possess a unique combination of skills, perspectives, and potential. Their social systems were designed to allow for maximum individual expression while maintaining collective adaptability. Educational intercepts revealed a learning model that was itself a form of psychological innovation. Humans did not just transfer information, they created entire systems designed to encourage creative thinking, adaptive problem-solving, and collaborative innovation. The most perplexing aspect was their approach to conflict. Most galactic civilizations viewed disagreement as a threat to be eliminated. Humans seemed to view conflict as an opportunity for mutual understanding and growth. Their most sophisticated communication systems were designed to find common ground, understand different perspectives, and generate collaborative solutions. Language itself was a complex adaptive system for humans. They could communicate complex ideas through multiple methods: verbal language, written communication, visual representations, and increasingly sophisticated digital platforms. Each communication method could be adapted and transformed almost instantaneously. As the research continued, one conclusion became increasingly clear. Humans were not just communicating. They were constantly creating and recreating their understanding of reality through their interactions. Their psychological complexity suggested something profound. This was not just a species that could survive. This was a species that could fundamentally reimagine collective potential through communication and understanding. Dr. Koro's final notation captured the essence of their discovery. Humans do not just communicate. They transform reality through the act of connection. The universe watched, and humanity continued to evolve, one conversation at a time. The Concordance research vessel drifted silently near the edge of human communication networks. Dr. Elena Koro reviewed the intercepted human communications, her neural interfaces processing vast streams of data that defied conventional understanding. Humans communicated in ways that challenged every established model of interspecies interaction. Their communication was not a linear exchange of information, but a complex, multi-layered system of dialogue that seemed to exist simultaneously on multiple conceptual levels. Most galactic civilizations developed communication systems based on strict logical protocols. Humans did something entirely different. Their conversations were an intricate dance of emotion, logic, creativity, and adaptability. A single communication could contain layers of meaning, literal information, emotional subtext, cultural references, and potential future implications. The research team had collected thousands of communication samples. Each one revealed a species that transformed conflict into an opportunity for understanding. Where most civilizations would escalate tensions, humans seemed capable of finding common ground through unprecedented levels of empathy and creative problem-solving. Diplomatic intercepts were particularly fascinating. Human negotiators approached complex international challenges with a flexibility that bordered on the miraculous. They could simultaneously hold multiple perspectives, understand opposing viewpoints, and generate solutions that transcended traditional conflict resolution models. One intercepted communication between two political leaders demonstrated this extraordinary capability. A potential conflict that would have resulted in warfare for most species became a nuanced dialogue about shared challenges and collaborative solutions. The psychological analysis revealed something even more extraordinary. Humans possessed an almost unique ability to transform negative experiences into opportunities for growth. Where most species would become defensive or aggressive when faced with challenges, humans seemed to view difficulties as puzzles to be solved collaboratively. Their social media networks provided additional insights. These were not just communication platforms, but complex adaptive systems that could rapidly distribute information, generate collective responses, and transform social understanding in real time. Most shocking was the human capacity for empathy. Their communication systems could rapidly mobilize global support for humanitarian efforts, scientific collaborations, and collective problem-solving. A crisis in one part of the world could generate immediate, sophisticated responses from diverse global communities. The research team discovered that human creativity was not a linear process. Their problem-solving approached challenges from multiple angles simultaneously. Where most species would follow established protocols, humans would generate multiple potential solutions, often combining seemingly unrelated concepts to create innovative approaches. Psychological profiles showed an extraordinary range of individual capabilities. Each human seemed to possess a unique combination of skills, perspectives, and potential. Their social systems were designed to allow for maximum individual expression while maintaining collective adaptability. Educational intercepts revealed a learning model that was itself a form of psychological innovation. Humans did not just transfer information. They created entire systems designed to encourage creative thinking, adaptive problem-solving, and collaborative innovation. The most perplexing aspect was their approach to conflict. Most galactic civilizations viewed disagreement as a threat to be eliminated. Humans seemed to view conflict as an opportunity for mutual understanding and growth. Their most sophisticated communication systems were designed to find common ground, understand different perspectives, and generate collaborative solutions. Language itself was a complex adaptive system for humans. They could communicate complex ideas through multiple methods: verbal language, written communication, visual representations, and increasingly sophisticated digital platforms. Each communication method could be adapted and transformed almost instantaneously. As the research continued, one conclusion became increasingly clear. Humans were not just communicating. They were constantly creating and recreating their understanding of reality through their interactions. Their psychological complexity suggested something profound. This was not just a species that could survive. This was a species that could fundamentally reimagine collective potential through communication and understanding. Dr. Koro's final notation captured the essence of their discovery. Humans do not just communicate. They transform reality through the act of connection. The universe watched, and humanity continued to evolve, one conversation at a time. A captured human researcher reveals a breathtaking truth. Humanity appears to be the result of intentional design, not as a weapon, but as a species engineered to evolve, adapt, and push beyond existing limitations. The potential architects of human civilization created a species with an extraordinary capacity for growth, innovation, and collective problem-solving. Each challenge becomes a catalyst for unprecedented development. The Galactic Conquests finds itself at a critical juncture. Humanity represents something entirely new, a species not defined by current capabilities, but by potential for transformation. Some view humans as a potential threat, while others recognize them as a revolutionary force in cosmic evolution. The universe watches as this young species begins to understand its true nature, a civilization with the ability to reshape existing paradigms and explore uncharted possibilities. Humanity continues its journey, largely unaware of its extraordinary potential. Each challenge becomes an opportunity, each limitation a chance for growth, a species on the brink of understanding its true cosmic significance.